Welcome back, everyone. My name is Brendan from Crypto 101, and today we have a breaking crypto market update in store for all of you. Because literally as we are recording this, Bitcoin is breaking out to its previous all-time high. VanEck has come out with a $3 million price prediction for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin ETF inflows are just absolutely skyrocketing to some of the highest levels that we have seen in a very long time. Microsoft is considering adding a MicroStrategy-like approach to buying Bitcoin. And there's so much more going on. I mean, altcoins are ripping. The whole crypto market is just absolutely on fire right now. So I can promise you, this is an episode that you are not going to want to miss. So all we ask over here is that if you're interested in the content that we like and the material that we put out, consider doing two things. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and if you really like the content, then check out some of the links in the description down below as well, where you can get plugged into some of our awesome communities. Now, let's talk about what's happening here with the crypto markets. Why is Bitcoin ripping? Why is everything going so crazy? Well, as you can see on the chart right in front of all of you, Bitcoin is skyrocketing, and I want to zoom us out here. In fact, I want to clean us up to a chart that isn't as complicated, and this is where we are at. Bitcoin is just mere a few percent away from its all-time high. In fact, to get back to its all-time high, it needs to move just over 1% more to the upside, which is a wild thing. I hope that gives you goosebumps. I know I'm getting a little bit as I'm saying it, but it really is an exciting time because as Bitcoin is pushing up to these all-time highs, so many things are happening. And I've been seeing a lot of articles come out here, especially over the last 24 to 48 hours as we've kicked off this week. But ones like this, I mean, they can't even keep up with the price action saying, hey, Bitcoin's price is rising today. It's above 71K. At the time of making this, we're above 72K. We're pushing up to 73K. And there's a couple of catalysts that are really propelling Bitcoin further right now. Now, one of them is election hopes. People are theorizing about the election results and what this could mean. People are theorizing what could happen with the SEC and Gary Gensler maybe leaving. I think if you're looking at the technical front, which we'll take a look at, there's a lot of good things happening there with Bitcoin. And also, as we're going to get into in just a second, there's a lot of other catalysts as well. And one of these kind of technical catalysts was Bitcoin seeing a golden cross on the daily time frame. Now, what this is this is when the 50-day moving average, this kind of pink or red line, crosses upwards over the 200-day moving average, which is this yellow line. And historically speaking, when we have seen this in the past, I mean, the last time that we saw one of these was all the way back in October of 2023, right before Bitcoin went from $25,000 to a new all-time high of 74 or just under $74,000. And now we're seeing that exact same catalyst again come around and say, hey, Bitcoin has produced this golden cross after a long period of consolidation, just like we saw the last time around over here, where we had this long period of consolidation from March all the way up into November. And I hope that sounds familiar because we're in the exact same boat this time around. And so as the spring is being coiled on Bitcoin, we're starting to see the beginning stages of it unraveling to the upside. And of course, this isn't the only catalyst that we're seeing. The positive kind of squeeze that we're seeing in pressure buildup and the golden cross and so much more is really just the start of what's happening here. Now, just yesterday, VanEck came out on live television and they were talking about how they see a $3 million Bitcoin by 2050. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying 2050 is, quite a bit away, but I think that comes out to something like this comes out to a 16% compound annual growth rate or a SAGR rate. So they even said like, hey, I know that this might sound extreme, but it's really not that extreme at a 16% compound annual growth rate over the next couple of decades. And they talk about the adoption that Bitcoin is having, not only in the United States, but over in BRICS. And they say, we really think that Bitcoin can hit $3 million by 2050. And I don't know about you, but that's a pretty bullish outcome, right? That's a pretty bullish lens to be looking at the future of, considering that Bitcoin is only at $72,000 at the given moment. Now, there's other things floating around like Microsoft, who is considering adopting Bitcoin investments, or they're essentially considering this Bitcoin investment strategy that would be similar to what MicroStrategy does, but a little bit less extreme. Now, this would make a big deal we'll see if this gets through. I think that this would be monumental. This would set a whole new standard for tech companies and Fortune 500 companies in the States. However, it does look like their board and their executives are a little bit against this. Now, there are a lot of public figures such as Michael Saylor and others saying, hey, this is a great idea. You should do this. Look what it's done for us, making us one of the most profitable, highest ROI companies in modern history. It has transformed the company of MicroStrategy and their profit. And there's people that are trying to convince them that this would be a good move. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Again, they seem a little bit against it at the moment. This is something that I believe they're going to be voting on in December, which isn't too far away, but I think it's definitely something to keep an eye out on, because if they do this, well, we now have one of the biggest tech companies in the world adopting this. And again, that sets a new standard. We'll probably see other companies follow in their footsteps. And it's just one positive catalyst after another. The other thing that we're seeing here, Bitcoin ETF inflows have been crazy. This top bar over here, and we've done this and shown this for the last couple of weeks, but here's just the Bitcoin ETF inflows doing 186 million, 370 million, 500 million, 200 million, 270 million, and then there's all these days where they're doing 550, 400, 500, 400, 270 million, and even like over the last week here, inflows have just been so high, being 300 plus million, 200 plus million, 400 plus million, and even yesterday, this continues to increase as they saw a record $479 million, which is the highest that we've seen in a couple of weeks here since we had one of those $500 million in inflow days, I believe about a week or so ago. So inflows are just skyrocketing into these Bitcoin ETFs. Institutional and retail attention is pointing towards Bitcoin's way. And one of the catalysts that we kind of referred to earlier is that, hey, if the SEC gets rid of Gary Gensler, regardless of who wins here, right? There's a lot of speculation about what could happen to the price of crypto if, one candidate wins versus the other. But I think the one big thing that everyone can agree on is that so long as Gary Gensler gets out of there, it should be a really positive catalyst for crypto. And it's looking like that will be the case regardless of who wins. So now that people are kind of looking at that, Brian Armstrong has a great quote here saying, I hope that the next SEC chair withdraws all these frivolous cases and issues an apology to the American people. And he goes on to talk about this a little bit more, but if you're not familiar with what he's talking about, there have been so many wild cases from the SEC against Coinbase, Kraken, Crypto.com, Cumberland, the list Robinhood, the list goes on, XRP. There's so many groups that have had to go through these crazy legal troubles by the SEC just for being a crypto company. And a lot of people are just getting excited about what the potential of crypto could hold if there wasn't that kind of restrictive force on it any longer. What if we had, 4 years, 8 years? What if we never have to deal with that again? Well, then the crypto space could grow unlike we've ever seen it before. There could be all sorts of new technology, all sorts of new investment strategies. There could be all sorts of new features that we have never been able to see prior to this. And so the markets really are heating up. And if we go back to the charts, we can see this. And this is what I want everyone to be paying attention to moving forward here, is because what we're seeing is Bitcoin squeeze into this all-time high. And if we get a breakout, I think it could be a very, very big one for everyone. And in wake of this, Bitcoin's up 3.5%, almost 4%. Well, let's look at some of these altcoins. Near is up 3.5% as well. Stacks up 6%. Immutable X up 4.5%. Optimism up 5.5%, pushing 6%. Aerodrome up 5%. Axelar up 11%. Goldfinch up 33%. Ondo up 8%. I mean, the list goes on over here. You have Super, which is up 13%. Pendle, which is up 11%. I mean, altcoins really are going crazy at the thought that Bitcoin could be breaking out to new all-time highs, and it continues to lead the market over here as well as Bitcoin dominance pushes up to around 60%. So there's a lot of cool things going on. I mean, there seriously are so many catalysts to talk about. And the crazy thing is we probably didn't even get to cover all of them inside this market update that we have for all of you today. So if you want to stay up to date on everything that's happening, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We got a lot more content coming out for all of you in the not so distant future. And if you're not plugged into our crypto communities, we have some links in the description down below for all of you where you can join Altcoin Alert and Crypt Nation, which are 2 communities that we run. And we humbly believe that that is one of the best ways to stay up to date with everything that's happening in the crypto space is by joining something like Crypt Nation. So that's going to wrap us up for today's video, everyone. I hope all of you did enjoy this. And until next week, we're going to see all of you at the same time, same place.